Hello friends, welcome to Run TV Social. So today we are going to have a conversation about VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. What is VPC? Most of the people cloud, AWS, migrating their applications to AWS. What exactly happening? So how the complete architecture of VPC works, right? So today I'm gonna walk you through how VPC works and how a VPC is divided into multiple subnets. And I'm gonna walk you through how to create a security groups, and I'm gonna walk you through protect your instance inside a security group. So end of the day, we will be provisioning like a virtual machines, nothing but EC2 instances, Elastic Cloud Computing instances. Okay. So what happens, right? So what when I get an AWS account, right? when i log when I sign up for AWS account, what happens exactly, how the VPC works, right? How this AWS works. So what happens is, when you sign up for a AWS, they will assign you a portion of their network. They have a multiple availability zones across the globe, not only in the states, across the globe. And you can create your own VPC based on your requirement. Let's say you want to deploy your portion of your applications into US East 2, or US West 2, or East region, or West region, or Asian Pacific, or Sydney. You can host your applications wherever you want. You don't have to manage your data center over there. You can sign up for like a portion of AWS network, AWS portion of AWS data center. Then you can provision your applications, and you can terminate them whenever you want, in the sense when you don't need it them, basically. So this is the basic architecture of the VPC. This is the AWS network, complete AWS network. When you sign up, you will be given a portion of their network called Virtual Private Cloud, which is VPC, portion of network. You see that /16 will be given to you. That is VPC. /16, how many number of IPs? It's a lot of IPs. 64K or 128K? Let me find out. So how many IPs in the /63? It's a cider range, right? And we'll see how many IPs in that /16 range. This is the /60. Like I said, it's a 64K. So you'll be given 64K IP addresses, like a /16 portion of network. You can provision your own VPC inside your AWS account. You can provision your own VPC based on the requirement, based on the company requirement. So the portion of AWS network and the portion of your network will be connected through VPN connection. Okay, this is the company network, like a company network basically, and this is the AWS network which will be given to the customer, and the both will be connected to through VPN. Okay, virtual private network, VPN. Okay, so the VPN established a connection between the virtual private gateway and the customer gateway. That's what it is. Like most of the companies, they set up VPN like SSO, or multi-factor authentication, or things like that. Okay, and when you deploy your applications into AWS, excuse me, how the applications will talk to the outside of the date, outside of internet, through internet gateway. Okay, let's say you hosted your some of your web applications, customer facing web applications, like for example you want to book your flight ticket, right? And your customers is the airlines business and they're trying to book a flight ticket, and most of the applications deployed into like web servers and the things like that. We, the customers, like who are working on those particular applications, what they could do is they could provision their infrastructure based on their requirement, and they can allow traffic from specific range of IPs, or they will allow traffic from based on the requirement. So when we create a VPC, a public subnet and a private subnet will be given. You can configure your own public subnet and a private subnet. You can configure your own VPC when you sign up with your AWS account. Like they will provide you the VPC, but you can have your own requirements. For example, let's say, so this public subnet and this private subnet should talk to specific gateways, like a specific range of IP addresses, which is nothing but CIDR. Then you can configure your own VPC like that. You can control who can access what server. Basically, what you are getting with AWS is you are getting a portion of network, and you can modify the network the way you want. Okay, that's VPC. VPC is nothing but virtual private cloud. So the VPC will be divided into at least two subnets. One is public subnet and one is private subnet. Inside a subnet, right? What we have inside a subnet, we will have security groups. That's where we will provision our virtual machines, basically. Okay. I just logged into my AWS account, and let's see what I was talking about. Let me search for VPC, and let's open that VPC dashboard. Then you will see what exactly I was talking about. Okay. This is the VPC dashboard. Okay. If I click on the VPC, only one VPC available at the moment, which is hosted in US East. Let's see, US East 2, I guess, Ohio. You see that US East 2, and the CIDR range, you see that /16 172.31.0.0 /16. Let's say I want to have a public subnet with a I want to divide this VPC into two subnets, right? For example, what I would do is I would use uh, 172.31.0.0/24 and 172.31.1.0/24. That's how I'm dividing the portion of network into subnetworks called subnets. And how we can access those subnets using network access controls, NACLs, comes into the picture. So most of the people ask like, what is the difference between NACL and security groups, right? So both are stateless. When I said stateless, that means the inbound traffic rules and outbound traffic rules are not the same. You can configure your inbound rules and you can configure your outbound rules. They are not the same. Okay, that's the stateless. So the network access controls, they works on the network subnetworks level, and the security groups, they works on the instance level. Security groups will secure the virtual machines inside that particular security group, while NACLs secure the subnetworks. That's what we can say, something like that. Okay, and you can have route tables, and you can configure internet gateways. Most of the time, right, you see that this is the owner, and if you go to routes, and these are the traffic, like a CIDR range that you are trying to access to this particular VPC. Okay, and this is the pretty much high level about VPC. You can configure your firewalls, you can configure firewall policies, and you can configure like a VPN, like I said, and a transit gateways. Like let's say you have a multiple AWS accounts, right? Multiple AWS accounts, like a child AWS accounts, but you have a parent AWS accounts. How you can, let's say each customer has been allocated to particular AWS account, right? But at some point you must have a traffic between them, like you must route the traffic between them, and you must have to some of the dev tools, let's say for example Jenkins, or for example source code repositories. They, most of the companies, they should have them available to all the AWS accounts, so that how we can configure them, how we can architecture, so those tools can talk to all the AWS accounts. And what we can do, we can you know uh, we can have them configured like a transit gateways, like a, before that it was a peering, VPC peering, but it's just a complicated transit gateways will make things very easier. Okay, so this is about VPC. And now we will create an instance, and I'll explain you what is the VPC role, and what is the subnet, and what is the instance type, and things like that. Okay, let's go to EC2 dashboard. Let's click on EC2 dashboard. Let me create an EC2 instance. In my previous videos I already talked about like how to create an EC2 instance, but in this video I'm going to explain a bit more. So on the right side, if you are at the EC2 dashboard, click on the instances, and on the right side you will see launch a new instance. I don't have any instances up and running at the moment. Right side, next, launch an instance. Okay, an instance is nothing but a virtual machine, which is nothing but a computer, right? It's a virtual computer, and a computer should have operating system, right? And we are going to select an operating system for that computer that we are going to launch, and this is the AMI ID. You see that this is the AMI is nothing but Amazon Mission Image. This is the operating system. Amazon Linux is the operating system for the computer, for the virtual computer that we are going to launch. Okay, Amazon Linux is the operating system, like a Windows, like a Mac OS, like a Linux. Okay, this is one of the flavors of Linux. Okay, select that operating system part. Now we're selecting the RAM, memory of that particular instance, and they divided that instance into some T2 family, or M4 M, or the C4, C5, C family, T family, and M family. Because if you go down, right, if you look that C family, or C5A, or things like, you see that the storage, the RAM, the CPUs of this computer is going up, going like increasing, right? These are increasing. So what we can do is, we can choose the just a free tier available T2.micro instance type, and we'll get an EBS volume with it. Okay, next, configure instance details. So you can select number of instances that you want. You wanna provision 244 instance, you can go ahead and provision that instance, but you can get, so you will be provisioning with the same configuration details for those, whatever the instances number that you are provisioning there. Okay, and let me use just one. I'm gonna just provision one instance at the moment for now. And this request spot instance, right? For example, let's say there are some instances available on the spot, right? You can save money. They might be cheaper, you know, they might be cheaper. Like they have the XYZ instances on that particular region that you are going to launch, and you could request a spot instance so that it can be cheaper, a little bit cheaper. Okay. And this is the network. You see that what is the network? This is a VPC. Network is nothing but VPC. So this instance will be sitting inside this VPC. So this VPC is in which region? Ohio region, which is US East 2 region. Okay. So this portion of the network from AWS is in Ohio region, which is US East 2. And this instance will be launched inside this network. Okay. And a network must have subnets, right? Especially this with this subnet, with this VPC have a three subnets: 2A, 2B, 2C. They are nothing but US East 1 and US East 2, right? US East 2A, 2B, 2C, nothing but even inside a region, they are called availability zones. And each availability zone, for example, let's do some quick draw. Let me, yeah, right here. So let me have some draw. Okay. And what I can say is this is a VPC. For example, VPC is nothing but a network, portion of network, right? And inside a portion of network, this network can be divided into multiple subnets, right? Multiple subnets. The whole VPC is in US East or West region, in one region, okay? But within this region, let's say this region is up to Ohio to Washington DC, and other side is Ohio to Chicago, for example, and other side is Ohio to New York. And this subnet, is, for example, towards like availability zone, towards like example Washington DC, and this subnet, for example, towards Chicago, and this subnet, for example, towards New York City. Okay. So when you launch your instance, right, you were telling specifically provision this instance in particular subnet only, because those subnets can be a public subnets or private subnets. And if it is a database server, you don't want your instance in the public subnet, it's okay. You can choose one, or you can create your own subnet as well. Okay, based on the requirement, and you can have this instance will be launched inside that subnet. Okay. And auto assign public IP. So most of the companies, right, they don't use the public IPs, like auto assign public IPs. The reason is, if I provision an instance like this, a, 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 an available IP from this region will be allocated to that instance. But so most of the companies, what they, for the security reasons, what they will do is they will request an elastic IPs. So they block those elastic IPs for that particular AWS account. Elastic IP link with that an account. So the IP will be there no matter what. If I choose auto assign public IP, right, when I stop or restart the instance, the IP will change. Okay, once the IP will go away, it can be allocated to some other instance inside that particular region or things like that. So for the security reasons, none of the companies will accept auto assign public IP, but I don't have any secret security stuff in this instance. This is just for a testing instance, so I can use like a auto assign IP enabled. Okay. And the host name type, just a name, IP name, host name is nothing but it can be tag or instance name. You can provide any name. Okay. DNS host name is nothing but you see that if you go top us2.console.aws.amazon.com EC2 things like that, that's a DNS of that instance. Okay. So when we enable the resource based IPv4, so the IPv4 address will be included in this DNS name. We'll see that in a minute. Okay. We can enable that one. Placement group is nothing but, let's say you have web servers, for example 5 or 7, 10 web servers, and this you have web servers and you have application servers or you have database servers. You want their you created them in a separate placement group, and let's say this is a web server and you want include this instance in that particular web server group, and you can have this in the placement group. Okay. And you can reserve the capacity as well. Okay. You can reserve the capacity, like how much capacity I want and things like that. Okay. You can join this instance to any active directory, domain join. Okay. And I released in my previous videos regarding IAM role. So IAM role is nothing but, let's say you have an IAM user. That user can have access to maybe some other Terraform or Jenkins or any dev tools, or it can be a user or it can be a tech it can be a maybe Ansible user or things like that. That user should have access to this instance, so you can provide that. Okay, you can provide that IAM user here. If you want to create a new role, you can create a new IAM role, and you can assign this instance to the particular IAM role, so that this IAM user can access this server. Okay. The shutdown behavior is nothing but stop and terminate. There is nothing discuss about it. You can stop and restart the instance. Since this is auto assigned public IP, once you start the instance, it will be, once you stop the instance, the IP will be changed when you restart. Okay. And you can terminate the instance. Okay. And you can enable the termination protection as well. Termination protection is nothing but when you create an instance, so nobody can terminate that instance without disable the termination protection. Okay. Let's enable the termination protection. Okay. And you can configure monitoring as well. You can enable a CloudWatch, so that let's say I have an instance with how much 100 GB data, and I can create an alarm if 80 of the 100 GB will be uh, filled, and you can intimate me, you can let me know that, hey, your server is approaching the threshold limit. I can set the threshold limit as 80. So when it approaches to that 80 GB, and it will let me know, hey, you gotta hurry, that your server is going away. So that what I can do is I can add more data to it, more data, or like a more storage to it. Okay. And so you don't need this elastic interface, or you don't need this credit specifications or things like that. This is a file system. You can create a new elastic file system, and you can attach that file system to your instance as well. Okay. And you can run some user data. Okay. This is a metadata version, and a metadata accessible just by default enable. And this is an enclave, and isolate computer environment for the protection. You don't need that actually, basically. Okay. And if you wanna use any user data, when I say user data, let's say you wanna add a default user to it, right? And you wanna install some prerequisites, maybe Apache, or maybe Jenkins, or maybe Bitbucket, or maybe source code, anything, right? What you can do is you can run that user data here. For now, I can just leave like that. I'm not running any user data on top of this instance. And next step is I can add storage. So by default, there will be a root volume. Remember, so wherever you're creating an instance, the volume should be in the same availability zone, not region. It should be in the same availability zone, okay? And you can add a new extra volume if you want. This is a 8 GB default volume, right? And what you can do is you can add another 100 GB, something like that, okay? But for now, I'm not adding any extra storage to it because this is just a test instance. So most of the companies, they will have at least 3 EBS volumes, one with a 80, maybe that's a default, and another with maybe 20, maybe 100, things like that, okay? And you can add any tags. Tags, nothing but, let's say, what I can do is I can call this as a web server, or application server, or application server, or database server, just identification purpose. Most of the companies uses tags for billing purpose. They include the project tag, and they will call this is maybe cargo project. Maybe if it is a airlines, or if it is a, like shipping company, or they can call maybe cargo project, or they can call fare project. That's their application serving on a fare tickets, right? Fare project, or they can call Macy's project, maybe, things like that. Just a project name I can call as a VC group project, okay? Spelled it wrong, let me correct it. VC group project, okay? And then next, configure security group. So you see that this is creating a new security group. I can choose existing security group. I can choose this security group, okay? The inbound rules for the security group is accepting all traffic, right? You see that, accepting all traffic, which is not secure. What I will do, I will create a new security group with the only inbound rule is add SSH, and it can accept that SSH traffic from any network, from any IP address. You can, most of the companies, so they will limit it to specific range of CIDR based on the requirements. But here, like I said, this is just a test instance, and I don't have anything, specific over here, so I can just leave like that, okay? And I can, yeah, if you want, you can add any rule. What is like a, HTTP or TCP or UDP, what kind of WinRM, WinHTTPS, Postgres, or you can add any traffic that you want. Let's add all traffic, and the port range and the CIDR range. Let's leave it like a, you know what? Let me skip this stuff for now, okay? We don't need to add any. SSH is fine for now. And review, and you will review all the details that you enter, and then launch. So most of the companies, they don't provision instances manually like this. They definitely have automation scripts. Maybe they can provision their instances using any configuration management tool like Ansible or Terraform or CloudFormation. So they write all these configurations into single template, and they can apply the template whenever they want, provision an instance. It will be like, quick 10 5, like a 2 minutes 3 minutes thing, okay? So this select key pair, this key pair, right? This key pair will identify you are the owner of this instance, so that when you try to log into this instance, you should provide this key pair in order to connect to that instance. It's a basically authentication purpose, and you cannot edit this key pair. Whatever you will get there, you download it and that's yours. You cannot, and you should have only readable permissions to this key pair, because I guess they might have a key pair with them, so it should be compared, I guess. So that's what it should be. Just acknowledge and launch it, and let's click on that instance. It will take a minute. Okay, now our instance is up and running. This is the instance metadata, and this is the DNS of that instance. Remember, we were talking about this earlier. This is the DNS of that instance, and this is the public IP, and this is the private IP of that instance. And so instance ID will start with I, AMI ID will start with the AMI, EBS volume will start with the EBS, snapshot ID will start with the snapshot. Okay, SNAP snap. Okay, remember those things, very important. Okay, and this is a platform. What is the platform? Amazon Linux. That's what we choose, that's what we selected, right? And we did enable termination protection, right? Nobody can terminate this instance until the termination protection should be disabled, right? Let's try to terminate this instance. Okay, let's terminate it. Terminate it. Fail to terminate an instance. The instance may not be terminated. Modify its disable termination protection attributed. Try again. Okay, nobody can terminate this instance. As long as the termination protection enabled, you cannot terminate that instance. In order to do that, just go and instance settings and change the termination protection. Okay, disable it and save it. Now you will be able to terminate this instance. Okay, now let's say, for example, I wanted to install Apache, like a web server on top of it, right? How I can connect to this server? If you see that, so let's go to the tags. We added a tag, right? It should be there. You see that the project tag with the VC group, and most of the people, they will add a cost center tag, they will add a user, they will add a who manages this tag, managed by environment tag, and things like that. Okay, and let's connect to this instance and install simple Apache web application. Okay, let's get the web application from W3 Schools. Okay, basic HTML website. We'll get the code from there and we'll deploy that web application to see how we deploy the applications into AWS. This is simple, just for simple. Okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll just deploy this simple this first heading and a first paragraph or things like that. Okay, let's connect to this instance. Connect. So there are 4 ways that you can connect to this instance. Okay, this is easy to instance connect. That's a GUI will be given from AWS, but it's not that effective. Since this is a free account, it's not that effective. What I will use is I will use SSH client. You see that this is a baseline key that we use to provision this instance. Now I'm trying to connect to this instance as an SSH user. How I'm telling my instance that I can have access to this instance? I'm providing this key that I used to provision this instance. Okay, let's copy this command. Let me go to my terminal, and when you create an instance, right, you will be downloading that key. The key will be downloaded in your folder. Which folder? Downloads folder. Let's go to downloads folder. Okay, and let's paste that command. You see that? Are you sure you want to connect? I would say yes. Now you see that I'm logged into that computer using as an SSH user, and this is the IP address of that instance. In order to install any package, you should be a super user. By default, EC2 user is a super user. In my previous videos, I already told you how we can add a user to sudoers group, and by default, EC2 user as a sudoers file, but we don't have to use any anything, any passwords or things like that. What I will do first, I will update the packages. What command should I use? Yum is a package manager for RHEL, CentOS, and Amazon Linux. Update. Yum update. No package marked for update because the image isn't up to date right now at the moment. Okay. Then just a simple install Apache. Yum install Apache HTTP, right? That's Apache -y. -y will escalate the condition. You don't need to choose while download or something like that. Okay, now enable the service. Sudo systemctl start httpd. Start the service, enable the service, and check the status of the service. You see that status up and running. Now let's go and deploy that simple web application that we are talking about. In order to do that, let me log in as a root user, and let's go to that www.html folder, then create a index.html file, and simply insert this basic HTML code in our index.html file and save it. Now let's access this instance from the internet. Let's go back to our instance. Let's click on public IP, because we are trying to access this instance as on HTTP, right? Let's find out whether this instance has a HTTP inbound rule or not. Let's go to security group, and you see that, okay, inbound rules. What is the inbound rule? Only SSH. Okay, edit the inbound rules, add a rule, Just for time being, allow all traffic and allow any cider and save it. Okay, now this security group will allow us to access this instance from the internet. And let's cancel this. Let's go back to our EC2 instance again. Let's select this instance. Let's select this instance. Okay, let me click on the public IP. The reason why is it is looking for SSL certification, because you see that it's HTTPS, but we don't have any SSL certifications. So we'll use a simple HTTP. You see that? My first heading, my first paragraph. This is a simple website that we got from W3 schools. If you want some websites, you can go here. There are a lot of them. Okay. This is completely for the beginners. Okay, beginners, and if you want to start working with AWS, and these are very helpful for you guys to understand the complete architecture. And in this video especially, I want to talk about the stateful and stateless. Okay, the stateless, the stateless means the inbound rules and outbound rules are not the same, and the network access controls will based on subnetworking level, and security groups is the instance level. You can provision security groups inside a security group. You can provision like instances inside a security group. Okay, but while NACLs, it's a subnetworking level. Okay, public subnet, private subnet, you can configure NACLs. Okay, that's all about this video, guys. I hope you guys understood about the VPC fundamentals, and what is VPC, what is subnet, and what is security group and instance, and how we can configure like a rules, inbound and outbound rules in a traffic in an instance, and things like that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe Run TV Social for more updates, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye bye.